Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar today. So glad we could have you with us in December. I hope you all are feeling the cozy, festive vibes. We just have a few more webinars left this year, and this is a really good one to close out the year and really start the new year thinking about marketing and how do we market our vacancies better? How do we lease faster? All of that will lead to more revenue, lowering your costs as well. And if you are spending money on marketing, this is going to be a great webinar for you, especially. We have with us two experts today from CallRail. They know so much about marketing, and I'm so glad we have that to share with you all because not only do they help with marketing with all kinds of businesses, but specifically they have a pretty big amount of experience in the multifamily space, which is obviously where we want to have our marketing dollars go further for filling those vacancies. So just a quick brief introduction of our speakers today. We have Chris Nelson with us. He's the Senior Manager of Vertical Marketing at CallRail, and he helps businesses of all sizes turn more leads into better customers. With over 10 years of marketing experience, Chris is responsible for CallRail's go-to-market strategy in key industries, including real estate and multifamily operations. And then we also have with us Sean Bruno, who is the Senior Demand Marketing Manager at CallRail. He will be here in a supporting role for Q&A and in the chat. So speaking of chat, I see someone put a chat message in here that they are doing an AI note taker. Feel free to use that in there. If you want to say hi in the chat, go ahead and say hello and tell us where you're coming in from. We'd love to hear from you in there. And then also we will have Q&A as usual. So make sure to put your questions in the Q&A box, not the chat. So chat is for comments, Q&A is for questions. That'll help us sort through the questions a little more easily. And then we're also going to be sending you the recording tomorrow as usual with the slides and CallRail's information. So if you want to connect with them after, you totally can. If you did select that you wanted the AI playbook in the registration, you're going to get something from CallRail on that probably soon. So with all that said, thank you so much for joining, and thank you, Chris and Sean, for coming to speak to the group. We're so excited to hear the presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Alexandra. Thank you. Happy to be here. What we wanted to do with this presentation is really just kind of dig into the marketing myths that you might be believing, and you've really got to stop in order for us to get to a point where you can be the most successful you want to be. I mean, these myths are quietly draining your budgets, they're hurting your occupancy. And our goal here as we go through this is really not to get you to spend more on marketing. You're already spending plenty on marketing. The idea is to help you to understand what's actually working with your marketing budget so that you can drive leases, protect your occupancy levels, and really waste less time and your budget and maximize the success that you have. Like Alexandra said, my name is Chris Nelson. I'm the Senior Manager of Vertical Marketing here at CallRail. I started my initial point in my career. I did real estate and construction law, practiced for about 5 years. Through the end of the go-go years, and then into when the spigot got turned off in 2008. In 2011, I moved into a wholesaler client of mine, regional building materials wholesaler. Eventually, I transitioned from a general counsel HR role into more of a business management role, did strategy and marketing, and had that responsibility for several years before I moved over to CallRail. Where I've been our senior manager of vertical marketing for almost the last 4 years. Started with legal, moved into real estate and home services, and we're continuing to grow from here. Sean has been my counterpart through this whole journey. I'll let him introduce himself.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Yeah, so my name's Sean Bruno. I'm the Senior Demand Marketing Manager here at CallRail, focused specifically on some of our strategic verticals, real estate being one of them. I've been in marketing for over 10 years here, helping businesses of all sizes really improve their marketing and sales processes, helping them generate better leads and reach customers more efficiently. You name it, I've probably done it in marketing. And then Just a quick bit about CallRail. So CallRail is a lead engagement platform. Some of you might be familiar, some of you might not. But basically, we power businesses of all sizes, a lot in the real estate space to market with more confidence. We help them capture more leads. We help them make it easier to convert those leads into customers. So there'll be a little bit of CallRail stuff sprinkled throughout here, but we really wanted to take this presentation up a level and talk to you about some of the marketing myths that you're probably hearing, maybe from other marketers, others in the space, agencies you might speak to, vendors you're speaking to, and kind of break down and dismantle a few of them and kind of show you a better way to be thinking about your marketing. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. And when we talk about marketing, what we're talking about is marketing in the broad sense. We're looking at it from not the entire renter journey, from first touch with your property all the way through to a signed lease. That's why we want to work through anything that is involved in that process. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on with marketing and really why it is getting harder. The thought process is like marketing isn't easy. Marketing in multifamily, especially in this environment and this today, it's getting harder, it's getting noisier, it's getting more confusing. You've just got a lot of not only needs with respect to filling your properties, but you've got a lot of clutter that's out there, a lot of information that's out there. The way renters are looking for properties is different now than it was even 5 years ago. Your budgets may be tighter. Your budgets may have to stretch further. You've got teams that are stretched thin. And so what we want to take a look at is where were the old assumptions on what was happening with marketing and how that could be something that was affecting your business and how it may no longer be working and what you can do about it to maximize the success that you're having. So let's talk a little bit about these 5 myths. Myth number 1, clearly more leads equals more leases, right? That's been something that I think has been drummed into anybody in the business world. The more leads you get, obviously, the more revenue you're supposed to get. Certainly, that's something that your agency, if you're working with an agency, is also going to drum into you. They want to generate leads, and those leads are more leases in their mind. Second myth, attribution doesn't apply to real estate in the sense that attributing whatever these leases are to the marketing channels that you are using, that doesn't apply to real estate. Third myth we're looking at, all insights are only for sales teams. You have a situation where there's just a gold mine of data within your calls that you're having between potential renters and your business, and how you can utilize the insights that are in those conversations to really improve the marketing that you have, to improve the conversion that you have with your marketing, and move it from that initial first touch all the way through to that signed lease. Fourth, renters don't want to text property managers. There's channels and there's different kinds of ideas about how people are using channels. And texting is something that is just growing full speed as we get into this time period and going forward. And then the last thing is based off of the new growth in AI. AI assistants can't help you lease faster. All of those are myths, and really what we want to do is dispel those myths, because if you fall for it, that's not what is allowing you to have your business move forward in the best possible manner. What we want to be able to do is generate the best renters you can have, improve the efficiency of your operations, and really make you the most effective property you can possibly be. So here we want to dig in a little bit more into each individual myth as we go forward, and then kind of discuss what kind of tools are out there and things that might be able to help you as you go forward in your business. So myth number 1, like we said, more leads equal more leases. The more calls and form fills you have, that means the more your marketing is working. And that's something that while your agency might want to believe it, while people might believe it, while you might believe it, that's not necessarily true. I mean, high call volume does feel good. You got lots of people calling in, they're talking to you. It's something where it does make you feel good. Those numbers going up, like we said here, people like big numbers. They like to see lots of calls coming in. They like to see lots of clicks. They like to see lots of form fills. The question is not necessarily are you getting those? The question is, are those clicks, are those calls, are those form fills turning into actual leases in your properties? Apartment ISLs also, they're pushing the impressions because that's how they maximize their business. So the question is, yes, it's beneficial to them, but is it truly beneficial to you as the property owner or the property manager to just see impressions as opposed to understanding that they're moving towards the actual signed leases? And then, like we said a little bit before, with respect to clutter, hard to distinguish quality of your leads from the noise and everything that's going around and the quantity of leads. Sean, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, I was going to say we see it a lot in our marketing as well. Like it's really easy to look at your numbers week over week, month over month, year over year, and see, okay, my form fills are going up, or my phone calls are going up, or clicks are going up, but it doesn't tell you much. Like that's a very surface level statistic. It's not until you start to dig in a little bit further and find out, am I getting the right form fills? Am I getting the right phone calls? Like, are these turning into renters? Are these turning into good conversations? Where you can really start to understand, like, is what I'm doing working?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of times you've got situations where there's a lot of pressure to maintain the occupancy, to get signed leases, to get those leads that might lead to leases. There's a lot of ways, there's a lot of reporting that's going on. There's a lot of dashboards that you can look at that might give you some surface understanding of what is going on. But the question is, how do you cut through that and get to an understanding of where your leads that are actually turning into signed leases are coming from? So here's the truth. Volume hides intent. Look, unqualified leads are draining your team and they're draining your budget. You're spending money. If all you're doing with the money that you're spending is generating unqualified leads, that's just absolutely draining the budget you've got. It's only qualified renters who are filling your units. Those are the people who are actually signing their leases. Those are the people who are actually getting to fill the occupancy levels that you need. And what you need to be able to do is understand and really make a difference between what is a low quality renter and what is a high quality renter. What is somebody who's actually going to fill that unit? Some of the ways that you can find those signals: budget is one, move-in date is another. Do they need something now as opposed to something 6 months from now? What type of unit are they looking for? All of those are signals that you can find within the lead and the conversation with the lead that allow you to understand, are they a more qualified or a less qualified renter? So how do you fix it? How do you go from generating low quality leads to something that is much higher quality? Like, you've got to be able to improve that lead quality. So one of the things you can do is take your ideal renter and really define that to understand who it is that you're trying to get to fill the building. Another one is to take the inquiries that you've got and be able to understand how they are by intent. Is this somebody who is a high intent right now? Is this somebody who is low intent? Is it somebody who's just kicking the tires? Is it somebody like me who in my spare time look around and take a look at apartments in different areas because I want to see what the market looks like? I'm a pretty low intent renter in that scenario. I'm pretty comfortable with where I am, but I do like taking a look at your listings. At the same time, are you able to identify what it is that is a high intent behavior? Can you see within the data that you have where you have higher intent leads as opposed to lower intent leads? And then the last thing I think is to be able to take a look at, once you've got all your signed leases that have been generated, to be able to understand, looking back at the channels that you have, where those renters came from. It's one thing to sit there and say, hey, I was able to fill the building. It's another thing to sit there and be able to say, hey, I was able to fill the building, and these particular people within that building came from this Google keyword and this Google keyword, or this particular part of the MLS. That's the kind of stuff that you've got to be able to do in order to be able to really improve the lead quality that you have. Sean,
To-
anything you
to-
want to add?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a totally great point, and it's that next step that makes your marketing like that much more powerful. It's not just okay. Most of my leads come from this listing site, or most of my leads come from this Facebook campaign. It's most of my renters come from this Facebook campaign, or most of my renters come from this listing site. You need to take it that next step past the lead to actual conversions and renters, so you know truly what's helping to drive the most revenue for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And, at CallRail, we've got a couple ways that we can help with that. One of those is that having all of that data within your conversations, it allows you to surface the high intent signals automatically. It, in my previous job, I managed our customer service team for a while. And within that, it was very, very difficult to understand where you were getting, what was going on in the calls. And here with CallRail, what you're able to do is take everything and understand it automatically. All of the calls with one of our tools are transcribed, they're recorded, they're allowed so that you can understand a summary. You can tag it, you could categorize it so that you don't have to, so that you can understand what the inquiry is about. You could, if you found a particular um, intent word, if you wanted to segment everything that you had, you could do that and be able to understand real quick within every one of the calls that you're getting where exactly that's coming from. The other thing is you can look at and understand the sources that are driving those leads and really just be able to identify which calls, which channels are attracting those best renters and which ones may not be attracting renters at all. Because that allows you to optimize the budget that you have. If you've got channels that aren't doing what you want it to do, it's just money that's going down the drain. Let's talk about number two. It kind of ties into that. Attribution doesn't apply to real estate. And the thought is, hey, all that matters is that the phone is ringing. Now, yeah, it does matter that the phone is ringing. But at the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean that the phone is ringing with people who are actually signing leases. Like, there's other ways that people can look at it. People see us everywhere. They know really, we can't really know what the credit, we don't know what channel is actually producing something. Or what I've also seen, which is, everything is attributed to Google, which is part of the reason Google makes so much money, is because it's very difficult for people to sit there and say, hey, yeah, the end click, that last touch was on Google, but there was actually 6 different touches that were before then that were on something completely different. Why do people believe that this is the case? It's hard. Just in that last example, multi-touch attribution. Somebody is moving from this particular piece of media, this particular ad, this particular channel. They're doing this, they're doing this, they're doing this, and they might jump to this. And then eventually there's one potential area where it's the last touch and it's attributed to that last touch, even though there were 5 or 6 different things that went on before that they got to that last touch. Every marketing platform wants to tell you, hey, this is something that we did. We did it. You might have 3 different, I was talking to somebody yesterday where they were told by 3 different marketing agencies that they had $300,000 worth of marketing credit or revenue that was credited to them. Well, 3 different agencies taking credit for $300,000 worth of revenue. So the guy said, hey, I've got $900,000 worth of revenue, but that wasn't the case. He only had 300,000. So each of the agencies was taking credit when each of the agencies was not in any kind of situation to have that credit. Renters are jumping between communication channels. They're going from this channel, they're doing text, they're doing calls, they're doing this, they're doing that. It's a lot of data. It's a huge mess. There's a lot of conflicting information that's going on. And so there's a point where somebody could sit there and say, hey, that's too much for me. That's not something that I can utilize to really drive my business forward.
Yeah, similar point. You might get someone that comes in from a form fill to start, and then they call you and If you are only looking at the last touch attribution there, what drove them to fill out that form and what drove them to call you, like the last marketing touch they saw before they called you, like those very well could be two different things for the same lead, and you're not capturing the full picture of that journey.
Yeah. So the truth of the matter is that you can connect marketing spend to leasing and occupancy. It's difficult, but you can do it. And you have to if you really want to move your business forward in this environment. Without it, you're wasting money, you're wasting time, you're wasting the ability to understand, you're wasting precious leads that might be out there that might be interested in your property that aren't able to maneuver and understand and be able and become the renters that you need.
Yeah, we see this in a lot of industries we work with, but it's something that gets masked when there's an influx of inquiries or influx of people looking for units. Like when you're flush with leads and prospects, it might not be a pain that you're feeling, but there will come a time when you need to know how to generate interest more effectively, or you have limited budget, and that's when having this data and knowing what levers to pull already in place is going to serve you tenfold.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Sean, tell us a little bit about how you can fix that. How can you cut through this attribution mess?
Yeah, I mean, there's like really high level strategies that you can take. Ultimately, it comes down to improving channel clarity, like uh, um, using unique tracking per channel is one of the biggest ways, and that can be done a number of different ways. Like you can be using things like UTM's on your URLs and your advertising links. You might have heard of those before, but they're just codes that you append to the end of your URL so that unique data and unique identifiers show up in things like Google Analytics or in your CRM. You can also start to see, I'm sure each platform will tell you how many clicks and how many impressions they're driving. But you're also going to want to start to measure qualified renter actions, not just impressions. So don't just measure for those impressions and clicks. They're good directional signals. And that's kind of where I start is when I first launch a campaign or when I'm first trying to test into a new channel, I'll see right out the gate, am I getting the impressions or the clicks that I'm expecting? But ultimately, that's not what I'm going to look for as a success metric. I want to focus on what qualified actions I'm looking for. Am I getting calls that are speaking to a specific unit that I know I'm advertising or property that I'm advertising? Are callers or form fills asking the questions that I deem the right questions to be asking? That kind of signals to me that that person is a serious inquiry. Are my scheduled tours going up, or are my applications going up? Those are the ultimate actions that you need to be able to tie back to some of the advertising campaigns that you're running. So that's a big one. The other one is to review channel performance regularly. I'm looking at my channel performance often on a daily basis, at least on a weekly basis, at the very least bi-weekly to understand changes and patterns, especially when you're testing new channels or you're marketing for new properties. You need to understand how that's performing against previous campaigns that you've run or previous marketing that you've run. Um, and then lastly, you really need to map out and follow the journey from call to tour to application. Like you should be very, very dialed into what that looks like from a high level, what that general journey looks like, and then be monitoring. Are you getting stuck anywhere along the way when you run new campaigns or you test out new channels? Or you're putting more money into marketing, are you seeing bottlenecks anywhere? Are you seeing drop-offs anywhere? Are you seeing decline in conversions from one step to the next anywhere?
Yeah, the steps are not necessarily trial and error. It is more hypothesis, testing, validation. And when you have a situation, in order to really validate something, you've got to have that data that's with you so that you can sit there and say, okay, the hypothesis that I did, these channels I thought were going to perform, this is what I did to drive those leads at this particular time. Did they actually do that or did they not? And where CallRail can help you with that is it can connect the calls, the chats, the texts, the forms, everything that you've got to specific data. You can understand, okay, did this Zillow listing drive actual leases? Did this Redfin listing drive actual leases? And when you have that information, it's not until you have it that you can actually validate whether or not your marketing is working. So that shows you what is working and what's not. And CallRail can help you do that with the tools that we provide on a call tracking and a form tracking level. Third
Yeah,
myth.
or I was going to say, at the very least, Chris, like you really need some tool that's going to make that tracking piece easy for you. Um, to try to piecemeal this together manually yourself is, I mean, unless your full-time job is marketing, it's going to be a lot to undertake and a lot to try to dig into while you're also focused on operating your business. So having the right tools that make tracking easy and give you weekly, monthly reports that you trust and that you can just kind of look to understand at a glance like how things are going. That's what we're going to recommend, like 100 times out of 100.
Yeah, it's hard enough to do it on your own. It's hard enough to do it when it's a full-time job just as a marketer. Now you add everything else that you've got going on, it's an impossible task, really. So let's shift now. We're talking about channels and the marketing that you're running through your channels. Let's shift to the actual conversations themselves that you're having with prospective renters and actual renters for that matter. So, one of the insights or one of the myths that we're looking at is that call insights are only for sales teams. They're only for people who are working through sales. Call data is useful for sales teams. That is not the case at all. But why you might believe it, one, you've got a situation where there's just some stuff that you have going on. There's, it's something where maybe that's the particular team that handles this. Maybe you as a marketer aren't listening to the calls. Maybe you don't understand what's going with different things. Maybe it is the sales function in your mind. And I think another one that where you might believe it more than anything is not necessarily that you want to believe it. It's that you may not have time. You cannot just sit there and listen to all the calls that are coming into your property. That's something where the savings that you can receive with time is so beneficial to you and to your business. So
Yeah, and
what's go ahead.
to that point, Chris, like I think a lot of these software call recording or call listening providers, they approach it from a sales perspective. They say, "Hey, this is for you to maintain quality assurance. This is for you to make sure that your sales calls are going well." Very rarely do they approach it through a marketing lens and say, "Hey, this is." All the other valuable stuff that you can gain from a marketing perspective by listening to your calls.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because if you're approaching it from a quality assurance standpoint, you're kind of pivoting away from the understanding that that call may actually be something that drives the lease itself. And so it's not even into quality assurance is just kind of, hey, was the call handled properly? As opposed to, hey, I took the call and I used the call to move this person further down the journey from first touch that he's had with me all the way through to that signed lease scenario. What's the truth on your call data? It's absolute gold. There's all sorts of things that you can learn from the calls and conversations that you have going on with both prospects and actual renters. One of those things is routing failures. Are you routing the leads correctly to where they need to be answered in the way that they should be answered? In another scenario, we might have a situation where we're running a promotion or something along those lines, and you want a particular person to handle that kind of promotion. That's where the call absolutely needs to be routed correctly. If it's not routed correctly, it doesn't get the service that it's supposed to have. Another one is, are you missing calls? Are you seeing patterns where maybe you have a very small team and you're missing all sorts of renter calls that are happening between 12 and 2 o'clock because people are at lunch? That's one where you can look at and say, this is something that I can understand from my call data that I couldn't otherwise understand. Another one that allows you to get a better understanding of the conversations that are going on, just there could be patterns in terms of frequently asked questions that callers are having. Is there a group of callers after you've run an advertisement that are asking about a particular model or particular 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, something along those lines that you're trying to rent out? And then the last one is there confusion with the listings that you have with respect to pricing? Do they not understand? Are they looking at something and thinking it's one price and then it's not? All of those are kinds of things that can be sourced out of the conversation that you couldn't get without easy automated access to those conversations.
Yeah, a couple interesting anecdotes on this. I was speaking with one of our marketing agencies, Street Digital, who focuses specifically on the multifamily industry. And they were telling me a story recently where they onboarded a new client, and they were getting a decent amount of call volume to this number. And the number was out of service, and it was connected to these ads that were running. And that's like initially how it was flagged to them. They're like, oh, these ads are getting a lot of engagement. Like, where's it going? And just by doing that quick little audit, they were able to see, oh, this is going to an administration office that no longer exists. And this number is actually going nowhere. So they not only were they losing potential inquiries, but they were paying for them. So it was like a double whammy there. And I think what's interesting with call data is you can really like open and close the aperture at which you look at it to accomplish different things. You can look at it at the macro of major trends, like you were saying. When are we missing the most calls? Where are calls being routed the right way? Are the right inquiries reaching the right people? Or if you get really curious, you can narrow in and focus on specific calls and say, okay, this was a really, really high quality inquiry, or this was a really, really successful campaign. Like, let's listen to each of those calls that came through and see if there's any patterns that we can spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can use the call insights that are generated to have so many different opportunities to improve your marketing, to improve how you're converting the leads that aren't coming in. There's a lot of different things. One of them, identify the patterns that are coming in on your marketing. So that could be sentiments. What are the sentiments of the calls? That also allows you to sit there as we get down and look at operational breakdowns. How are you getting from, maybe that lead is being dropped at the level of the person who should be converting that lead. Maybe there is something that's not happening in that conversation. Maybe their tone isn't correct. All of that can be driven through call sentiment understanding in a way that's at your fingertips as opposed to not. Call summary is another thing. You just can't possibly have an understanding of everything that is going on with those calls in any kind of easy way. Summaries allow you to be able to do that and to quickly understand the sum and substance of whatever calls are coming into your business on a daily or a weekly basis. You can take the calls and take understanding of particular keywords that might be driving those calls and improve your ad copy. You can improve your landing pages. You can improve the messaging that you might have with your property so as to allow you to get to really generate more at the front end of things. You can take conversation coaching and be able to understand, all right, within this conversation, here's where you handled it well, here's where you didn't handle it well, and allow you to improve that kind of conversation so that the lead actually doesn't get dropped, it converts to the lease. And the last thing really is that you can take an understanding of when your calls are coming in, when they're not coming in, and work through your staffing and scheduling decisions in a data-backed way, as opposed to either missing the calls consistently going forward or struggling through with, well, anecdotally, I know that I probably should have somebody answering the phone here, but they are not answering the phone, or maybe I will have it. Those kind of anecdotes, move it from being anecdotal to data driven.
Yeah, and one interesting way that actually didn't make the list, but I also wanted to call out was a lot of these conversation intelligence and conversation analytics tools today will allow you to push a lot of this data back into your advertising platforms, whether it's Google Ads or social media platforms or listing sites. So you might be able to identify just based on summary or sentiment analysis, hey, these 25 leads were good. We want more leads like this, and push that data back to your ad platforms to kind of help optimize those campaigns as well.
And no doubt, that's where CallRail can help. CallRail allows you to have those call summaries, those call sentiments, can have you that keyword extraction, the visibility into what might be driving your lead, the conversations that are actually being had. CallRail can put that at your fingertips in an automated manner that you could not get just doing it on your own. So, one of the things that I think is unique, we find that a lot of teams are underutilizing this channel, and that's texting. And myth number 4 here is that renters don't want to text property managers. Renters want phone calls, renters want tours, they don't want texting. That myth really carries over from a lot of different verticals where texting has not moved into the mainstream in terms of how they're handling things. But as we know, there may be some reasons behind it. There may be some anecdotes that are driving why you might believe that, and it's something that I know from a legal background. I would not view texting as being a channel that would be utilized within the law because it's so informal. It's something that is not necessarily looked at as being, hey, this is how do I get my lead? What is texting? Texting is between two buddies who are talking about something. That's not something where I handle it and look at it as a channel. The other thing, there's a lot of fragmentation in terms of your records. You might have some parts of the text, you might not. There might be a lot of different things that are going on. And there's also the understanding that, hey, if we're going to have a serious conversation here, it's going to be over the phone. It's going to be in an email. This is just not a serious channel to have serious conversations.
Yeah, and I want to make sure we're framing texting correctly as well, because I think a lot of people probably have like automated appointment confirmations or something like that go out via text. Like that's great, but I think people need to be open to more and more of the process happening via text, which is something that I think is very foreign for a lot of industries today. Is almost the entire journey can happen over text in some instances.
Yeah, no doubt. But within multifamily, especially, this is something that I think where the truth is very valuable for this particular segment of customers that you're trying to reach. A lot of renters, because of what the demographics are with respect to renters in multifamily properties, texting is a very, very, very valuable channel. You've got a lot of people who are mobile first. That has shifted. The iPhone has caused a great shift in terms of how people handle communications. Within the renting space, you've got a lot of people who are younger. The demographics absolutely skew younger, and those younger people are looking at texting. It's a primary source of communication to them. It is not something where they view it as, phone call first, then text. For most of the people who would be within that demographic, they view a text first and then potentially a phone call, but only if I can't actually get the answers that I want via text. And then if you look at that, you've understood the demographic that you're working with as a property manager, as an owner. You've got to sit there and say, hey, I want to be able to give that demographic what they want and communicate with them in the best possible manner. And to do that and utilize the texting channel, that will allow me to boost conversion in a way that I couldn't otherwise boost. And so, that goes back to what we talked about at the beginning, where you have a situation with the budget that you're wasting your time and you're draining your budget. Those leads that you're not reacting to and communicating to in the channel that they desire to be communicated in, you're throwing those away. And that's where understanding and focusing on text and utilizing text is a way that can allow you to drive your leads closer to that signed lease status.
Yeah, ultimately it's about like reducing friction wherever you can. And we'll get into it on the next slide, but up until this point, I think there might have been some pushback of, hey, if I start a long texting conversation, is that going to be fragmented from my CRM, or is that going to be fragmented from the profile that I've built of this potential renter? Like, how am I going to capture it all? There's plenty of tools that are available now that will incorporate texting back and forth, whether it's automated texting or allow your leasing teams to text potential leasers and have full conversations and transactions via lease. But like you said, it's ultimately reducing friction and allowing people to engage with you in the manner that they want to. If they purely want to have a conversation via email, via phone, or via text, like, you should have those options available.
Yeah, I mean, if you're utilizing it now, you've got the ability to text and get down to, you could even put the leasing agreement into a text and have it move straight into a DocuSign situation where it's all via text. And basically, you're continuing everything that you might have done in an email sequence or an email chain and moved it into a texting sequence.
Again, it kind of just reiterates what you said before, that everything's so mobile first. Like, so many people are either on their phone or on their iPads. That's where they're signing documents. It's their sole form of computing.
Yeah, no doubt. So how do you fix it? One, conversion support. You've got what we talked about. There's really two aspects to the funnel. One is generating the lead, and two is taking that lead and converting it to an actual customer. So how can texting improve your conversion? One, it can help you confirm tours, confirm bookings, confirm appointments. Two, it allows you to get some kind of quick availability and pricing info to your potential prospect. Three, it allows you to follow up. It keeps the lead warm in a way that might not be if it had to move from different channels, so that you can continue to move them along the funnel and not lose sight of them in the funnel. And then another one, that I think is near and dear to Sean's heart, is marketing optimization.
Sorry, I was coming off mute there. But yeah, in addition to conversion support, there's a lot you can do from a high level marketing standpoint that's kind of not necessarily set it and forget it, but it kind of gives your ongoing marketing campaigns superpowers. You can create automated nurture experiences based on maybe the property that someone might be interested in. Or the marketing campaigns or channels that someone's coming from. It's a really, really good way to re-engage previous leads. Maybe they didn't become a renter then, but you just want to check in with them every so often. And what we've been getting more into, and what's really, really interesting, is there's now 24/7 AI text assistants that can have full conversations and capture lead details. So someone reaches out via phone or text, and maybe you're not available to have a full conversation right then, but there's really, really advanced AI text assistants that can capture that lead detail and make sure that they feel engaged with, so that you can follow up with them after.
Yeah. How can CallRail help here? We can take any of those tracking numbers that you're utilizing within the call tracking space, that portfolio that we have, and not only can they handle calls, but they can actually handle texting from those track numbers. You can move into the automated follow-ups that are allowed to be programmed in, so that you can sit there, and if you have a particular way that you want to respond and follow up to an inquiry, you can. And then what you have is the ability to unify all of the communication threads that are going on, so that you can really get an understanding of the complete and total conversation that's being had with a prospective customer. All of that allows you to just have data at your fingertips that you couldn't otherwise have, and then to utilize that data to actually act on it and really convert the leads that are coming in, and then potentially optimize how you're generating other leads.
I see we have a
So,
question in the chat, Chris, that I think is kind of interesting, and we've kind of alluded to it a little bit on a couple slides, but we haven't really given a firm stance on it. He asked, "Do we need a dedicated phone number for all of this?" And I don't know, maybe you want to give a little insight as to um, kind of our perspective or point of view on using unique numbers.
sure. What CallRail does, CallRail assigns a unique number to every marketing source that you potentially have. What we can do is either of two ways. One is what's called source tracking. Source tracking is static, so that you have a particular number assigned to a particular marketing source. It could be a number that's on a billboard. It could be a number that's on a TV ad. It could be a number that's in a newspaper ad. If anybody does anything like that anymore. And then there's also the ability to take on your website and put what's called dynamic number insertion that allows you to get visitor level tracking. So that's where each and every visitor to your site is going to see a different phone number, so that you can then have a record of the journey and be able to track those individual visitors based off the phone number that they've had. All of those numbers work in tandem with your main line. So we have the ability to then flow the call. Even though they're seeing a particular number, it can flow into the main line that you have existing, or it can flow into another line if you want it to.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was the specific question that he was asking, but to his question, like we would not recommend setting this up manually. Like this is not something that we would recommend going and opening 3 or 4 different numbers on your own to be doing. Like that's a lot of heavy lifting that's going to get really confusing really fast.
Let's talk about something. We know it's in the news. We know it's something that people are emotional about right now. We know there's a lot of myths that are out there about it. We know there's some truth somewhere that relates to AI. And, one of the myths is AI can't help you lease faster. They're too impersonal, they're too risky. There's a lot of myth out there about AI. Let's talk a little bit about why that is. You know, they're new. That's definitely one of the things that is creating these types of myths that are out there. They're new, they're almost brand new. There's a lot of trial and error that's going on with respect to how they operate. Some of them aren't very good, some of them are improving, some of them are still garbage. And what you want, and for your particular property, you want something that can be customized to your particular property or customized to your business, and they're still learning how to do that. There's ways to make it easier to work with an AI assistant, and there's ways that aren't. But everything is still within that process of improvement. There's a lot of people who don't like the way they sound. There's a lot of times where they provide misinformation or just the downright wrong information. There's a lot of times that they don't pull the details that you need for a particular lead. There's concerns that people have that they might replace human staff. There's just a lot of myth out there. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of different things that are going on with respect to AI. And it may be true in some respects. There may be a lot of untruth in some respects. It's just a lot of jumble, more of that conflicting data, the conflicting information, more of the mess that's out there. So
What I think is
what
interesting for this one particular, Chris, is a lot of these are myths now that weren't myths 6 months ago, 18 months ago, because the rate of improvement of these AI tools is incredible. So where someone might have engaged with some type of AI virtual assistant or some AI chatbot last year sometime and was given generic or wrong answers and said I would never trust this with my business. The rate at which they've improved and the rate that they can be trained on your own business is it's incredible now. The level of like tailoring that can be done with them.
Yeah. And I think there's a concern that it's all well and good if I'm a Fortune 50 company who doesn't really have to worry about losing out on all that much revenue because their chatbot has delivered a bad experience. It's very different if this is my sole business and I'm wholly dependent on that business for revenue and for my livelihood. If there's a mistake that the AI chatbot or a voice assistant or anything like that does at that level, that could really hurt my livelihood in a way that it's just not going to hurt Coca-Cola or Google or something along those lines. So I think that plays into why there are myths surrounding voice assistants that are stronger than they would be in other areas. So what's the truth? The truth, like Sean said, is they're improving. Uh, they are steadily progressing and becoming better and more useful to you as tools. There are many tools that started out and they were not anywhere near where they are now in terms of the usefulness for us in creating or doing jobs. And that's where AI voice assistants have steadily improved. So one of the things that they allow you to do is they allow you to not miss leads. You can answer a call, you can capture a call, you can qualify a call 24/7 without needing to dedicate additional resources other than the AI voice assistant. It also allows you to maximize every ad dollar you're spending. And the reason it allows that is because you're not missing leads. So every time that you potentially have missed a lead before, that is a potential where it no longer is missed and it can turn into a measurable result that can actually be a signed lease. Another thing that you can do, it can drive better outcomes. You can take a look at ways to program and customize so that you can boost your conversion, so that you can do different things that allow you to improve how you convert in a way that you couldn't otherwise do so. And then, you can deploy it almost immediately. It takes some time to set up. You want to set it up in the way that's best suited toward your business, but it is easy to customize. It can be fully integrated with everything that you have, and it allows you to put it out into the field as soon as you want it to go out into the field and work with your prospects and customers.
Yeah, and in this particular instance, like the myths, I would almost bucket under fears. And to me, if I'm spending money on marketing, the fear of wasting that money or missing leads is vastly outweighs the fear of maybe sounding robotic or someone thinking that they're talking to an AI agent, especially if it's a time where you're not going to be able to answer the phone call. That's kind of the trade-off that I look at it. Like if this is between missing this lead altogether, or capturing them after hours, or being able to now expand when I'm running ads so that I can capture leads around the clock. I'm going to take the second every time.
Prioritizing these leads more than anything, I think, allows you to improve your conversion, allows you to improve the number of leases that you have going through your system. Voice assistants can capture the intake details. As they get to even further improvements, they can move those intake details automatically into the other systems that you utilize. They can allow you to score those leads. They can allow you to prioritize the follow-up for those leads. All of that allows you to improve the conversion that you're operating with. And it also lets you maximize the budget that you have when you're doing it. Within those capturing those leads, just the details that you can capture somebody's budget, you can capture somebody what unit size they're looking for, what type they're looking for. You could capture their timing. Are they looking to move in next month? Are they looking to move in 6 months from now? Do they have pets? Are there other things that might be a qualifier or a disqualifier? That allows you to get to the level of prioritization that you need and you really want to be the most successful with your business.
Yeah, and to your point, it's not about replacing staff. or replacing your leasing team with AI. It's about making sure that a lead that otherwise would have been missed is captured, and then prioritized. So that way, when someone on your team or yourself can get to those leads, you understand, okay, what are my highest priority leads? There's actual context there. The lead feels like they were engaged with, and that they weren't forgotten about, and that they're not going to go look at another unit, or reach out to another property.
Yeah. Let's recount the myths and the realities of where we are multifamily marketing wise. One, quality over volume. It's not necessarily the volume of leads that you're getting, it's the quality of those leads that you're getting. And then it's the quality of those leads that you're turning into actual customers that you want more than anything. Attribution matters. It allows you, without it, you can't test, you can't validate, you can't really make the most of your budget in a way that is the most beneficial to you as a business. Call data, it's a strategic asset. It's something that you can utilize, and the information that it provides to you in a way that you just couldn't operate with before. Fourth, I think you're looking at texting. The renters are expecting it. It's a totally different demographic from what a lot of businesses are dealing with. And so texting is a very, very viable channel within this space. And then AI tools are filling gaps that we as humans can't right now. We're looking at a situation where the demographics are changing. There's going to be fewer and fewer people out there who can do jobs that we need them to do. And AI fills that gap and allows us to not only take the personnel that we have, it allows them to become the most efficient and effective that they can possibly be. So if you're ready to learn more, we have CallRail's AI playbook for real estate growth. You can download it. You can use the QR code here. You can try CallRail for free for 14 days at www.callrail.com. It's a free trial, no credit card required.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for sharing all of that. I did post up a poll question for you all. If you would like to indicate how you'd like to be followed up with, we could certainly reach out to you, or you can just go on CallRail. It's awesome that they're offering the 14-day trial, which is amazing. I think it would probably help to talk to someone there so you get the most out of that time. But in the meantime, you can also download that AI playbook. And again, if you answered that you wanted it in registration, that's going to be sent to you automatically. And I'll also be sending you all the recording and the slides tomorrow. And we have time for questions. So if anybody has any questions, we do have our Q&A box up. We also will be sending you over the contact information for CallRail as well. I saw somebody in the chat say that they're using a property management software called Hemlane to do some of these things, which I thought was interesting. Have you all heard of any softwares that are integrating your particular your particular services within it?
There's definitely, some of the larger property management softwares that are out there. They do have subcomponents. They don't necessarily have all of them in the same, just in the same setup. But there are some like Yardi or RealPage that do have some of those components. What we like to look at and position ourselves is that we can be utilized no matter the size of the business that you have. We work very well with small and mid-sized businesses in a way that others may not, and just may not as efficiently.
That's great. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I know a lot of the people on the call here are probably going to be smaller operators. So what would you say is like one of the first things that they could start with on CallRail, if they are, let's say, maybe 5 to 10 rental units in their portfolio, for example?
I mean, I would say no doubt that utilizing a combination of call tracking and form tracking to start out with, so that you're tracking every one of your leads that you possibly have coming in. But then if you wanted to take it to a next level, and you really didn't want to miss out on any of those, then the voice assist product works very well for that type of smaller property that's out there. It's
Mhm.
just a good mix and allows you to not only track everything that's coming in, but then also not miss anything that might be coming in, whether with if you do or don't have any kind of availability.
Yeah, and like
Nice.
like Chris mentioned, what's interesting with the voice assist product is it has a lot of operational benefits as well. There's a lot of customization and training that goes on specific to, in this case, like your properties. So you can field questions from people potentially looking for properties, or we've had cases where people are setting up to field questions from actual tenants. Like there's all sorts of operational benefits that people can use voice assist for.
That's fantastic. And I think that's a challenge that, we all face is how do we, be in multiple places at once trying to answer questions from multiple people. It can actually add up quite a bit, even when you do have a small rental portfolio, and then you're missing out on those opportunities. So all that to say is you can start small here, and really just use some of these tools to enhance what you're already doing and then do it with less effort, more automation. So I hope you all learned a few tips today and it got your mind kind of going on what you can possibly start changing or adding to your process to make things a little easier for you. Or if you have a property manager you want to share this with, that might actually be a great opportunity to help them help you. So again, I'm going to send everyone the recording. And I also want to call out a couple of new webinars that we're going to have coming up in the next couple of weeks. So on Tuesday, we have the New York legal compliance webinar we do every year. So if you're in New York, you have rentals in New York, be sure to attend that. We're going to send that invite out probably starting tomorrow. And then we also will have Trump's new tax bill on Thursday next week. The 10 big changes that could affect your wallet as an investor. And lastly, our last webinar of the year will focus on rising costs of utilities and what you can do as a property owner to prevent or potentially mitigate some of that. So hope you'll join us in the last few that we have this year. And again, Chris and Sean, thank you so much for speaking to our group. We'll be sure to share the recording with everyone. And thank you again. You did a great job.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
All right,
Yeah,
everyone,
thank
take
you.
care. Have a wonderful day. Bye.